Okay, here we go. So it all begins with number one, put on your helmet. Right, I don't have my helmet, but put on the rest of your stuff first, and then get connected to your glider later. Okay, this is something for the launch when it's thermic and it's windy. We don't really want to have things half connected, or have our glider laid out and then get blown away from us. So I tend to put on all this stuff first. When I put on my harness, I always go leg straps first. I don't want to get into this mode where I feel comfortable wearing the thing like a backpack, like that feels normal to me. I just want to complete the process as soon as I put the straps on, finish it, right? I don't want to go halfway through it. It's really easy for people to get distracted when there's a lot going on, so I'll let that be you. Crucial parts right here, right? Okay, so now that I'm in my harness, yes?
Question. How tight, when you really fly, how tight do you want that harness? Because, I mean, certain, if it's too tight, you can kind of cut your blood circulation off, right? I mean, that's...
You don't need it to be tight. Like, it's not like skydiving. In fact, a lot of harnesses are set up to have a bit of looseness in there so that you can slide around in your weight shifting and stuff.
Okay.
So you don't need to be completely snugged up. In fact, you don't really need shoulder straps at all on harnesses. They're just there for when you're on the ground and carrying stuff. They do offer a tiny bit of support, but most of it's coming from here and your waist. So there you go. I just have it so that I can raise my hands like this and that it's not choking my anatomy. All right. So first thing when I pick it up, and come a little closer if you need to see some of this, I always try to do it in the same process. First I got my glider laid out facing the wind, that's my approximation. And then I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to grab my risers, separate them left and right, okay? And then I'm worried about top and bottom or front and rear of the aircraft. So it's A's on top, brakes on the rear. If everything looks beautiful, then that's all I have to do. I'm done. I don't have to shake this line and shake that line, right? I just need to clear my brakes, make sure they're not hung up on roots, rocks, branches, and bushes and stuff like that, and make sure that there's no twist going over my A's, okay? So that's when everything's clean and it's organized. But if it's not, right, like we talked about earlier, somebody did a little bit of hacky sack action and they went playing around and they kicked it over, right? How do I unscrew this? The first thing that I'm going to do is try to get the brake out of the way, right? If that came loose and it's causing some of that, then I'll just start at the pulley and I'll find which side goes to the toggle and I'll pull it back through, and then I'll pin it off next to the pulley so I don't have that to deal with. Then the next part, maybe I have a bunch of knots and twists here, maybe I don't, but I'll just start here anyway. If there's a bunch of stuff and I have to walk all the way over here to start it, I need to go all the way up the A middle line to where it's not twisted and I don't have any lines going over it to the leading edge. And as I come back to my riser, I just drop it, find my mullion again, trace the mullion fabric to its straight all the way to the riser connection point, okay? And then if there's any other twists or whatever, it'll show you by tracing out the other side. There wasn't much of a twist in that one, but let me just show you what a real one looks like. All right, so here's same technique. I'm pulling my A on top. I'm letting it hang down. I'm fishing out the A and the connected fabric, right, till I get to this part. Then I'm putting tension on here. And look, I can see here, there's a little bit of a hiccup with the toggle snag in the line. But look, this one's clear. Everything is running over the next one. Okay, so in between this V right here, one side is clear, one side is not. What that means is I have to pass the rest of my riser bundle through until that's not the case anymore, right? So now I'll pick that guy up, shake off the lines, and I do have them both on top now, right? And I can trace my fabric once again to ensure. Look, still with the toggle, but that was easy, right? Okay, so now that I have that, I don't want to drop it on the ground and walk away from it, because then I could have to do it all over again. So I have these together. Then what I do is I put my riser tips together, right, where they connect. And the most important thing here, and a lot of people get them mixed up, is pretend the pencil going through the middle. Whichever way you turn, left or right, clockwise, counterclockwise, 180 degrees. For me, it's clockwise. And just so we know, I don't have to grab all these, especially what I did just there. But I don't need to grab all of these together and do this whole heave-ho. In fact, it looks like this. Boop. Okay, that's it. Boop. And then separate. Then the key there is not to let the front and back become flipped around when you do that. So hence the pencil in the middle type thing. Okay, I see a lot of people go like this and then flip over and feel, oh, what the fuck is that, right? No, it's just your hand right there, flip it over, and then separate. And then this part, pay attention, because some harnesses let the carabiners flip over like this, and if you just grab them and start connecting, you may be twisted 180 degrees from where it's actually supposed to be. Okay, that happens a lot too. So as you get connected, and by the way, just a hint, right? Sometimes you can use symmetry as an indicator, right? I went into my gate this way. I better go into my gate the same way on the opposite side.
So Jordan, lockout's always on the outside, right?
That's not always the case. You could easily flip these around, right, and have them on the inside. A lot of gates are on the inside, right? But that's just you figuring out symmetry alone.
Got it.
Can tell you if something's wrong or not, right? Because in paragliding, it should all be symmetrical. And if you're going to fuck up, at least let it be symmetrical. Okay, so then I have everything connected. One check that I'll do here, one check, not the other, end of the road checks that I want to do before I launch, is that I have one riser over the other. It's the side that I turn to. Okay, I turn to my right riser is over my left. Okay, let's say that it wasn't the case. I have a whole twist, right? I can take them both together and I can just flip over back into that position. Let's say I went the other way, and then I have my left over my right. That to me should feel wrong if I'm a right-hand turner. And when I see that, I should be like, oh, I'm not properly connected. Okay? Anybody know why we always turn to the same direction? No?
Redundancy.
Yeah.
If you stay with it, then...
No, it's because if I need to turn this way to open my glider once it comes up, if I turn this way, I'll have a full twist in my face right there. You can see it.
Yeah, I'm a lefty, so I'm doing everything
Yeah, you're going
backwards
to
than
twist
you
that
do.
way to get open, right? But if I'm twisting to the right and I need to twist to the right, what this is telling me is that's not going to happen unless I take everything and flip over, okay? And I never step over the lines, always go under them, okay? So then that's just getting situated, but this was all about the forward, right? So then we're going to turn around and get into that forward position. And the thing about the forward, this is really important because you're about to run off a fucking mountain, right? You may have 7 steps before your life, is hanging by the decisions that you made. So you need to make sure that everything is laid out properly, which here it's not. That's a pile of shit. I would never accept that in a real launch, right? But let's say that it was perfect. The wind was coming right at me. Okay, so here how it goes, right? If I'm standing way out here, I have to look behind me to find my shit, so I actually step back a little bit so everything hangs down next to my knees. I flip my carabiners out in case they weren't already. Boom. I use my thumbs, I trace down the back of the fabric, I untwist any type of twist in that fabric, like if one was twisted like that, right? Part of the goal here would be to untwist as I go, and I pop these off with just a little shake. Then, this is my famous pistol grip. You can grip it however you like, but what I love about this grip is you can hold your toggles while you have dexterity in your other 2 fingers, and then just flip them through the middles there and pick your hands up. What happens here is a lot of people, when they flip around to forward, especially if they haven't practiced in a while, is they'll look down here and they'll start, trying to figure out the lines. What the fuck, that looks weird. Hey, there's a twist right there. I don't know what's going on right here. What I suggest is run the entire process of just going down, getting things in your hands, and then popping it up to here, and then say, okay, now does it look right? Okay, because you're at the end of the process. You've already done all of the work, and it should look a certain way by that point. But if you look halfway through the process, it's not complete. It's going to look fucked up and weird, especially if it's your first few times. Okay, so here I am. I've gotten to this point, and basically if everything's lined up into the wind and I'm connected properly, I could just run that way and fly away. And in fact, I don't even need my hands to do that, right? We already talked about it. I could just run that way and the rest would happen. Does that seem
If you were
realistic?
perfectly lined up.
Yeah. If you were perfectly lined up and everything was, you had a little slope too, you just run, and it'll take you away. So the hands are kind of in the way a lot of times, right? But they're here to finesse it. So here I have my, position ready to go. So what am I thinking right now? I got my 4-part checklist. Anybody remember what it was?
Just thinking, make sure your brakes are clear.
What part of my brakes?
Between your
Toggle and pulley here.
Yep.
So I've already checked. I've already checked from there to the wing when I laid it out.
Make sure you only got your A's by your thumbs, not holding
Yeah, I
on
don't
to
want to
it.
death grip them. That's
Don't
another
death grip,
big
no,
one,
sir.
right? So, but the thumb's the leading edge. That's another check. So I have to take a little tension so I could see that. And I've seen this a few times. Looks good. Well, what about this one? Right? You got to look at both of them. So something so simple, right? But look at both of them and make sure they're both clear. And by the way, when you're checking and you're doing like this, don't pull the fabric over and crush it and destroy that work that you put into the layout just because you're doing this little thing right there. If you hear fabric, you just fucked it up. That's how that goes. Especially if you're on a gravelly launch, really steep, and any little tug makes the whole thing slide. So you got to be really gentle with it in some launches, right? You don't want to be on it because it just destroys your shape of your canopy. If that gets crushed, it takes longer, more steps to open it up. If you've only got a 5-step launch, you can't take 7 steps to open up your canopy. Okay, so make sure that it's nice and pretty. You're doing the forward. So here's the checklist: thumbs to leading edge are clear on both sides.
Right.
Toggle to pulley, clear on both sides. You called it. What's the next one?
Shoulder.
Everything's up and over your forearm.
Yeah.
Right? Would I recognize this if I was just like in a hurry? Right? What would be the end result of me launching like this though? No.
You're gonna catch that line.
I'm not going to fall out of the sky.
Don't catch that line.
Close. I'm going to be like, oh, and my arms are going to be stuck in my risers.
Oh.
I'd be like, oh, dude, I'm trying to launch a fucking aircraft here.
Yeah.
I can't use my left brake or do anything until I extract that shit out of there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you cannot have a line going under your forearm. What's the problem of having this thing twisted? You know, like we said, one of the checks was to make sure it's not twisted, right? What happens if
Gonna give you a break?
it's going to get bound up? There's going to be tension on it, even though it's not doing anything. It might even get locked down if it's bad enough, right?
But it also pull to that one side, it'll pull that ear down, right?
Right, and you'll pull on it, and you'll feel tension, but there won't be the same reaction as when it's not wrapped. So it's going to feel different too.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't have that going on. You need brake functionality and steering and all of that stuff, right? And then what was the other one? This guy is looped, has a line going over it. Is that a problem? Is it going to make me fall out of the sky?
No.
No, I can still fly down to the LZ and have a safe landing. It's just that the entire riser has been twisted like this. Maybe this was twisted when I plugged in. Maybe I didn't do my pencil when I flipped over. That's how you're going to see it right there at the ace leading edge are clear. Okay, they're clear. Then I know that I'm not twisted on my risers. I know that my brakes are going to work. I know that my limbs aren't sticking through my aircraft. And what's the last one? What's the last of the 4 checks? The one that really fucking matters. The one that does make you fall out of the sky. You're like, what? I can fall out of the sky? Gotta have your leg straps on, right? So I take them all and I go,
there you go, there
until
you
I
go.
feel them.
Yeah.
I'm serious, right? The first thing I did when I picked up the harness was what? Put the leg straps on.
Yep.
The
Yep.
last thing I do before I run off this mountain is check that fucking thing, right? Because all of these other things, these are just minor malfunctions and inconveniences. But this one, it's game over, right? So it needs to be
Have you ever
checked.
seen anybody ever do that?
Seen people take off without their leg straps.
Yeah.
I've seen people almost do it, and there's plenty of stories of people dying like that, yes. So don't let it be you, right? Only has to happen once. It's super easy. Connect 1, 2, right? But you just have to be a creature of habit when it comes to your routines and your process, getting connected. Okay, so getting laid out, getting connected, and all of that, those are what I call the internal checks. Okay, you're connected with your glider properly. But there's the environmental checks, everything out there, right? So I already checked the wind speed and direction. Do I need to check it again?
Absolutely.
Yeah, why?
Because it can change.
It can change. And what if the wind direction did change?
It did.
Then you
Okay,
have-
but what are my options?
turn your sail.
You gotta adjust
With your-
your height if you can.
Is it my kite?
Or
It's my kite and myself
Yes.
as one unit. So I can rotate or I can
Go home.
That's a longer form of what I was going to say, but yeah, you can wait. So you can wait or rotate. You can wait for the wind to come back, and if it doesn't, then you're waiting a long time. If you have a buddy, then he can rotate you. But I caution against just going, oh, you know, I'm going to face this way now, and start dragging my glider over. Right? That destroys the layout. It sucks a bunch of shit up into the other side with the brakes and all that too. Right? So we can't do that. We have to go out there and reset it. If it's a forward launch like this, then you'll have to do it manually. Right? Okay, so what are my environmental checks? We said wind direction and speed are still what I thought when I laid out. Okay, so, okay, they're good. Let's pretend. What are the other things I worried about? Just 2 more things, really.
your airspace.
Airspace, I want to make sure I don't have any jackasses showing off right as I'm about to pull my glider up. You know, various other airspace issues. And then the other one is, am I square in the middle of my glider?
Right.
right? I'm gonna check that because I did all this other stuff, right? I'm definitely not square. I was just dancing around, looking and having fun, right? But at this point, I want to do it like this. And when I have my hands out here, I know it's gonna be funny with a smushed up glider. Somewhere over here right now, my hands are fucking this up for me right now. Okay, how many people do tension checks like this? Yeah, it feels good, right? I'm fucking things up right now. My hands are not even, right? Even though I can pretend like they are, they're not exactly even. If I want a real true gauge on even in the middle, I need to get those fuckers out of the way like this and step till I have tension equal on both sides, right? Then I take a step back. When I run through this point, my hips better be square and I better be loaded hard, right? And I better have my hands out of the fucking way. Make sense? So now I'm ready to run off a hillside. What did it take? Get connected to my glider, have the process in order to make sure I check just a handful of things, right? But if you miss a single one of those things, it will be a fuck up, right? It's not rocket science, but if you miss one of those, then the whole launch can come apart or you could have a malfunction that you take with you for the rest of your flight. And that sucks, right? You don't want to be relegated to turns in one direction. You don't want to have your glide performance chopped in half. You can't reach the LZ, right? You don't want to be on the verge of a stall the entire time. This is where it really matters, and the forward launch especially so, because you do not have that second to just, oh, look at the glider as it comes up. You can feel it, and if you're in tune with your glider, you will know that something's right or wrong just by the feeling, okay? But it's very committing. Now, some people might say, well, fuck the forward, I'm never going to fly in those conditions. Yes, you are. You're going to fly in a forward condition someday. You're going to get to the mountain, it's going to be like, you know what, if I try to reverse right now, I'm going to fall backwards on my ass downhill, and it's going to really hurt or suck or be embarrassing. So maybe I should brush the forward launch tool off and remember how that goes again, right? But anyway, don't do that. Rehearse it all the time. It will be a favorite if you ever get into paramotor or speed flying, you know, or hike and fly. You're going to be forward launching a lot.